Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back to Life on the Wrist. Hope you guys are doing well today. We're going to be continuing our little discussion that we've been having on this channel recently about investing in watches and how you can get passive income from investing in watches. We've done a couple videos where we describe if watches are really an investment, what type of passive income you can expect as you invest in watches, and what kind of time horizon you should really be thinking on if you are thinking about diversifying your assets into the tangible assets that are watches. Today, what I thought I would do is I would go over 5 watches that I thought were a fairly good place to invest your money into watches, and these are watches that I think can generate passive income over a longer term time horizon. Like I've mentioned in the previous videos, investing in watches is not a short-term play. This is something that, for the most part, is not a short-term play. This, for the most part, should be a long-term idea that would generate you passive income over a longer period of time, and not something that you could like day trade almost. And so, yeah, I'm gonna give you 5 watches that I think can generate passive income. I will say these are some very basic watches that can generate passive income. I might go into some other videos where I talk about some more nuanced watches that could generate passive income, but for now I'm going to keep it with the basics. I want to say this at the beginning of this video though, this is not investment advice. I am not suggesting that you go invest in these 5 watches. I think these are watches that are interesting and could generate passive income, but you should do your own research and not trust what someone says on the internet. You must make your own decisions, and it's not on me if you invest in these watches. So without further ado, let's get straight into the watches. I'm gonna try and kind of make sure I have all kinds of price ranges here. So I'm gonna start with right at the bottom where you can basically buy a watch for under $200. The watch that I believe is a really great investment is a Swatch System 51. Swatch is a brand that makes fairly affordable watches, and I think that the System 51 is one of the best things to come out of Swatch for some time now. Swatch watches are extremely collectible. If you look back at some of the watches that they had released in previous decades, there's a huge collector market for these, especially if you're looking for new old stock versions of these watches. I think that these can generate passive income because of the collectability of them, as well as some of the limited editions that have been released. If you don't know, Hodinkee has paired up with Swatch on multiple occasions to make some limited edition Swatch System 51s, and I think those are going to be very collectible with their connection with Hodinkee. However, some of the other watches that they have produced in the System 51 line will generate some passive income. I actually have one right here. This is a Swatch System 51. This is the SUTA 401. This is completely brand new. It comes in the box. It still has these stickers. Let me just bring it up to the camera here so that you can see it. This is a completely brand new Swatch System 51, and you can see the stickers are both on the back of the movement as well as on the front. I'm sorry if there's a glare from the lighting, but this is a completely brand new System 51 that comes in the box, and is actually listed in our store. So if you are interested in this piece, let me know. But like I said, I think that these can generate passive income because of the collectability of Swatch watches in general. And I think moving forward, I think the System 51, because of it was so revolutionary within the watch world, I think this is a good place to look. Yes, I am advertising something that is available in our store, but it still holds true that I think this will be quite collectible. Moving forward to our second watch that I believe will generate passive income, and that is the Tudor Black Bay. The Tudor Black Bay is a watch that looks very, very similar to the Rolex Submariner, which is a very desirable watch, except it is produced by the sister brand, Tudor. They have come out with some various different variations on it. Like they do have the Tudor 41, which is fairly standard within the watch world, but they also have some other watches like the smaller versions of the Tudor Black Bay that have more of like an explorer dial. I think either way, I think you'll probably see these rise in value because of how affordable they are compared to the Rolex Submariner. I really do think these have this watch has area. This watch has space to kind of move north when it comes to the price of this watch. They do have some interesting variations on it. So they have like a blue dial, blue bezel insert. They have like a red version of it. They have a black version of it. I think this is really a place that can generate some passive income. I think they also switched over to creating a Black Bay with an in-house movement from Tudor, as opposed to using an ETA, a modified ETA movement, which I think also helped increase the value of the Black Bay line. Like I said, because of its price point, as well as its similar aesthetics to the Rolex Submariner, which is a very in-demand watch, I think this watch really has a place to go north, or at least hold value within the next couple of years. I think it really is going to depend on what types of releases Tudor ends up doing in the future, and whether or not these become limited quantities. So my second pick is the Tudor Black Bay. I think it has potential to generate some passive income. The third watch that I think has a place in a portfolio of investment watches is the Omega Seamaster 300. This watch is obviously a fairly iconic watch for Omega, and comes from a brand that is fairly recognized by the watch world, but also by the general public as a brand that creates very good luxury products. The Omega Seamaster is kind of like an alternative to the Rolex Submariner, and a lot of people have found, when you meet people, a lot of the times they're going to be wearing one of these on their wrist. Obviously, coming from a brand like Omega, it has a lot of brand heritage, and there's a lot of value within the Omega name, and the Seamaster has been a part of things like the James Bond series, as well as being seen on many public figures' wrists. This watch is a fairly affordable watch, generally speaking. I think, you know, affordable that's a very, I use that loosely, but when you look at the world of watches and you look at comparable watches, I think this is definitely a fairly affordable place to look at. This watch, also with the coaxial movement, which is an Omega special, does present some value and definitely has its own place within the watch world, and I think people value that as well. Whether this is collectible or not, this is a fairly well produced watch from Omega, and so they do create many of these. However, as new iterations come out, like they came out with some of the heritage versions of the Omega Seamaster, that kind of changes the price of many of the other variations on the Seamaster model. I think if you get one of these in really good condition, perhaps keep it in new old stock condition, this is a great place to invest some money in. And I believe that it has a place to move north, as long as you have a longer term time horizon. The last two are kind of an obvious pick, and I think you probably are already guessing it, and you probably knew that I was going to come here, but that is the one and only. It's the Crown. Rolex is a great place to generate passive income when it comes to investing. I think the Rolex name is just a really well recognized name within the watch world, within the world at large, and everyone is looking to try and have a Rolex on their wrist to celebrate a milestone in their life, or perhaps add a very special thing to their jewelry collection or their wrist. Obviously, vintage Rolex has really exploded over the last 30 years, but I do still think that there are some models within the vintage world that do have a place that could appreciate in value. These assets appreciating is obviously complete speculation, but I think a really great way to look at it is what types of watches are relatively affordable, but have a lot of the similar aesthetics to watches like the Rolex Submariner and the Rolex Daytona, which have appreciated in value tremendously. And I think a common one is to go to the date just. I'm actually going to go to a different reference just to kind of make this video a little bit different. I'm going to say that the Rolex dates from the vintage Rolex dates, like the reference 1501, I think is a really great place to actually get your foot into the door when it comes to Rolex. I think this model is quite nice, especially if you have that engine turned bezel version of the 1501 from Rolex. this is a unique looking watch, and therefore you could probably see some demand for this, because it isn't like every common Rolex Datejust 1601 with a fluted bezel, if that makes sense. So you can have something a little bit different on your wrist, and I think that makes it a little bit more collectible, because it's a little bit rare in most people's collections. You can find Rolex 1500s in like stainless steel, which I think are a great place to go, with just like a whiter cream dial. I think it's a place that obviously you've got the brand recognition that is Rolex, that continues to appreciate across all models, but then you have something a little bit different, a little bit more niche within Rolex that can generate you passive income. So this is where I would also go if I was looking to generate passive income from investing in watches. And then the last watch that I want to mention is a watch that really has grown in value over the last, I'd say, 3, 4, 5 years. And that is the Rolex Explorer 2, specifically the reference 16570. This watch is a watch that has obviously been spoken about at length by people. I think John Mayer mentioned that this was, the Rolex Explorer 2 was the first kind of like real watch that he had that really made him go like, okay, now I know about watches. And I think at that point, that's kind of when the 16570 kind of took off. If you don't know about this watch, this is a GMT function Rolex that has a 24-hour bezel or scale on the bezel insert, and is really, it's really got the same aesthetics as like anything like a Rolex Submariner, Rolex GMT, and those types of aesthetics are you can get for a much more affordable price. I will say that there are two kind of variations of this. You have the black dial version and the white dial version. And the white dial version has absolutely skyrocketed. I know from just personally, we had someone come to us who asked us to source a white dial Rolex Explorer. I want to say about maybe a year and a half ago, and compare that to what the prices of those are now. It's incredible to see how it's kind of just exploded, and I think the new releases from Rolex have really assisted the prices of a lot of these similar stainless steel sports watches that Rolex has in their line. So white dials have really exploded in price. I think black dials are still not as expensive, but they're slowly climbing up as well. And so I think this trajectory will basically just continue as long as Rolex continues to make similar watches, discontinue specific models, which is something that they will continue to do. So that is my fifth and final pick of a watch that you can generate some passive income over a long time horizon if you do end up investing in tangible assets, which are watches. So just to recap, the 5 watches were the Swatch System 51, the Tudor Black Bay, the Omega Seamaster 300, the Rolex reference 1501 date, and the Rolex 16570 Rolex Explorer 2. If you have other ideas of watches that you think are good watches that you can generate passive income, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and let me know what you think about these 5 picks. It's I think a fairly straightforward list, and that you probably already kind of had these on your radar, so maybe this just kind of affirmed your thoughts. But let me know if there's any other ones that you think could be added to this list. Also, if you have not done it already, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you like these types of videos, as well as smash that like button for us for the YouTube algorithm. It really does help us out. And with that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time.